Да я ни одной цели не вижу. До деревни 800 метров.
Готово, командир.
Фугасный готов.
Огонь.
Welcome back to Lessons from the Front and to beautiful Katong. Today I'm taking up a challenge. Shah has challenged me to take on his Finns using my Soviets. Let's go and look at the armies.
So here we have the Finnish army. We have the armored platoon of regular BT 42s. You have 3 veteran Kako Patios and 1 regular officer, accompanied by 1 squad of Lati, personally my favorite anti-tank rifle. And over here you have the veteran Yakaris, 3 of them led by another regular platoon commander as well.
Right, so my Soviets have got 3 platoons, 2 rifle platoons and 1 armoured platoon. The rifle platoon on the left here is led by a 5-man SMG squad. They've also got 2, and they're veterans by the way, and then they've also got 2 veteran scout squads, 3 SMGs and 3 riflemen each. And then there is a regular forward artillery observer, 2 regular anti-tank rifle teams, and then a white half-track. The second platoon is led by a single-man lieutenant. He is inexperienced and he carries a pistol, cheap as chips. And that platoon has also got 2 LMG squads. Both of those squads have got 2 LMGs. And then there is a tank rider team, or tank rider squad. 6 of them, and they carry SMGs and they've got body armor. And then there is a second forward artillery observer, and then a 4-man infiltrating tank hunter squad, and they've got 1 Panzerfaust, and then another white scout half-track. And then my armoured platoon has got a BA-10, a ZiS-30, and a light tank, the T-26B, all ready for the winter of 1944. Along the frozen front lines of the continuation war, Soviet and Finnish troops remained locked in a bitter stalemate. Both sides huddled in prepared defensive positions amongst forests, rocky hills and snow-covered villages, while aggressive patrols and local fences erupted across the icy frontier. Tonight's battle begins with a roll of the dice, and the scenario is breakthrough. Both forces have dug in along opposite sides of a lonely Finnish town, divided by a road running east to west through the frozen wilderness. But this is no static defense. Orders have come down to punch through the enemy line and force units deep into opposing territory. For me, commanding the Soviets, there was one major relief. CS Finns would not be appearing from flanks or my rear, as they so often do in bolt action. This time, the Finns would have to face my Red Army head-on in a brutal frontal clash through snow, forest and rock. Sia and I would like to say thank you to Rahim at Xpidemix for setting up this beautiful winter battlefield for us, the 6x4 foot table. Oh, and please do give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. It really keeps my viewers out of the gulag. Deployment was determined by order dice drawn straight from the bag, and this photo shows where both armies ended up before turn 1. One thing I was determined to fix this game was my forward artillery observer deployment. For several battles in a row, I'd managed to lose them quite early in the game, like almost immediately. So this time I held back until the very end of deployment. That let me position one safely in cover with commanding lines of sight over 2 important woods and a building that looked like it could become Sia's anchor point. The second forward artillery observer had to sit in the open, unfortunately, to maximize visibility, but deploying that last meant I could keep him out of direct lines of enemy sight. My 2 key units for me were my 2 scout squads. Thanks to Scouts Lead the Way, they'd get a free 12-inch move before the game began, so I positioned them aggressively in areas where I could disrupt Sia's advance and counter some of that nasty ambush tricks that the Finns are known for. Every vehicle also had a specific role. The BA-10 and the T-26B were deployed to hold the flank where Sia had concentrated nearly half of his force. If these 2 vehicles could slow the Finns there, it would create opportunities elsewhere for my infantry to break through towards the table edge. The M2 half-tracks were my mobile reserve force. ready either to reinforce weak points or make a late-game sprint for breakthrough points. Meanwhile, the ZiS-30 had two possible jobs: hunt Finnish army with flanking shots, or simply make a desperate dash of Sea's table edge for an extra 3 victory points. I wish I'd had time to chat to Sia more about his deployment intentions, but after the game he did explain that the reason why he deployed most of his units to the right or on his right flank was to dominate one half of the table with concentrated force, and you can see that clearly here. The letters J and K mark his Yakaris and Kokopashios, where his 3 BT-42s, the assault guns, were deployed centrally, giving them the flexibility to support either of his infantry thrusts. After deployment, my scouts made their free moves to even stronger positions. For me, one of the key battlegrounds would be that central wood over there. So I pushed one scout onto the road just behind those woods and hoping to have them on ambush as soon as possible. If Sia tried to move through those woods, I wanted him to pay for every inch of ground with a lot of Finnish blood. The second scout squad occupied the building on the flank, giving me a forward position and hard cover right on the edge of Sia's advance. From the very start, this battle was shaping up to be a tense fight over movement, positioning, and who could control the centre long enough to launch the decisive breakthrough. Turn 1 began with Sia's Finns advancing exactly where their deployment suggested they would. A heavy push into the woods against my left flank, backed by a second advance towards the central wood. His 3 BT-42s rolled towards the centre, positioning to support either of his attacks as the battle developed. The leading BT-42 immediately tried to blast apart the building, sheltering my troops on the left flank with its powerful HE gun. It failed to bring down that structure. Anticipating a major Finnish push on that flank, I had already moved one of my Soviet infantry squads behind that building to create a strong blocking position covering the route towards my table edge. I also advanced the T-26B towards them, intending for the infantry and the tank to work together to slow Sia's advance and force the Finns into a costly fight for that side of the table. To reinforce that flank even further, I pushed the BA-10 armoured car forward as well, creating a layered defence of infantry, armour and firepower aimed at blunting the Finnish breakthrough attempt before it could gather momentum. On the Soviet right, the fighting escalated quickly. Sia used his national rules and advanced 2 squads into ambush, threatening to lock down my advance between the buildings. In response, I disembarked my tank riders and unleashed their SMGs into the Finnish squad that had broken cover from the buildings. When the Finns triggered their ambush fire, the tank riders' body armor proved its worth, helping them absorb the attack and stay in the fight. I then concentrated even more firepower onto that same Finnish squad. The scout squad that had occupied the forward building before turn 1 added its fire into the target, while Sia's move into ambush exposed the squad to my second scout squad positioned behind the woods. Seeing the opportunity, the scouts charged in. The assault was brutal and decisive. The Finnish squad was destroyed, and my scouts consolidated forward between the buildings, pushing aggressively towards Sia's table edge. In the center, I dismounted the anti-tank rifle squad and officer team from the half-track early. I didn't want to risk losing them if the transport was knocked out. I positioned the anti-tank rifle team in the woods, preparing for the advance of the BT-42s, whilst my officer squad ran forward behind the wood to take up the position that the scout squad had vacated earlier on in the turn. I chose to leave the half-track exposed in the open, accepting that risk in order to use its HMG fire to add pins to the BT-42s in the following turn. Turn 1 ended with both my forward artillery observers calling in artillery strikes into the woods where Sia had concentrated most of his infantry. The Finns packed tightly into cover. Turn 2 was suddenly shaping up to be rather explosive. The Soviet artillery strikes slammed into both woods at the start of turn 2. Thanks to the Soviet massed batteries rule, getting both bombardments to arrive was far more likely, and this time, the Red Army's guns did not disappoint. Explosions tore through the forests where Sia had concentrated his advance, showering the Finnish troops and vehicles with dirt, splinter and shrapnel. One unlucky BT-42 was caught in the overlap of both bombardments, taking a heavier number of pins as shells crashed around it. Despite the intensity of the barrage, the Finns escaped without any actual casualties, but the artillery had still done its job, disrupting the advance and piling pressure onto Xia's forces before the main fighting of turn 2 had even begun. The artillery barrage may not have caused casualties, but it certainly had a significant impact on Xia's forces in turn 2, with several of his units struggling to get moving. On my Soviet left, I paid for an early mistake. Not only did I underestimate the threat range of the leading BT-42, leaving my BA-10 exposed, but then I decided not to use its recce move, choosing instead to hold my forward position, and bang, that BA-10 was gone. The T-26B opened fire on the advancing Finns, killing Xia's platoon commander and leaving his right-hand attack without leadership just as those artillery pins were beginning to matter. In the center, my half-track added more pins to the Finnish command BT-42 before finally being destroyed in the open. With the Finns regrouping after the barrage, Soviet infantry continued to build strength in the center. Crucial action took place in the central wood during turn 3. As two Finnish squads were pushed forward by Xia, my officer team sprang an ambush on the lead unit coming into the woods, before himself being wiped out by the squad behind it. That sacrifice wasn't totally in vain. My tank riders, equipped with body armor, immediately counterattacked, charging into the woods and finishing off the weakened Finnish squad. From that point on, the tank riders became a roadblock Xia simply could not ignore. Despite taking casualties, their body armor and SMGs allowed them to cling to the woods and delay the Finnish advance turn after turn. Meanwhile, the T-26B, waiting in ambush on the left flank, struck exactly at the right moment, destroying one of the advancing BT-42s and helping to secure that side of the battlefield. Turns 4 and 5 now saw the Soviet plan beginning to pay off. Two squads successfully broke through and exited the Finnish table edge. Running my second unit off the table edge. Run. Yoo-hoo! Run. Run, 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 run. Run, 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 run. Okay. Followed shortly afterwards by an M2 half-track carrying two small units, an anti-tank rifle team and a forward observer team. Motivation test.
Pass.
8, you passed. So they're going to advance. The pin comes off. Xia continued to press forward on his right flank. His anti-tank rifle team managed to set the T-26B ablaze, but the crew managed to extinguish the fire and kept fighting on. In the center, the struggle for the woods continued a grinding firefight, with the tank riders somehow continuing to hold on, despite repeated Finnish attempts to clear them out, even with the BT-42. The ZIS-30 spent much of the battle searching for its moment of glory.
До деревни 800 метров.
Готов, командир. Фугасный готов. Огонь.
But despite several opportunities, it simply could not knock out its target. By the final turn, the Soviet breakthrough was well underway, while Xia fought hard to salvage points where he could. Whilst his command tank and my T-26B had a comical exchange of firing blanks at each other, his infantry managed to annihilate mine behind that building, and he was able to take a unit off table, eventually getting one squad off my table edge before the game ended. The final score was a convincing Soviet victory. However, the scoreline does not tell the whole story. After the game, Xia pointed out that his Finnish force was designed to exploit maneuver, ambushes, and outflanking attacks. The breakthrough scenario, combined with the deployment from prepared positions, forced the Finns into a much more direct frontal assault than they would normally prefer. Even so, the battle was decided by a handful of key moments. The early artillery disruption, the loss of the Finnish platoon commander, the destruction of the BT-42 on the left flank, and the stubborn resistance of the tank riders in the central woods. Together, those actions bought the Soviets just enough time to achieve the breakthrough and secure the win. So after a wonderful game, Xia and myself would like to say thank you to Xpidemix for hosting our game and setting up a beautiful table. I'd also like to say thank you to you guys for watching Lessons from the Front. Your support really means a lot. I hope you really enjoyed this game. Please do remember to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet done so, please do subscribe. It helps spread the love of this game. So until next time, happy gaming!